tell you what my grandpa told me when I was just 6 years old. Son, always speak the truth. People will never forget what you say.
The full history of the Biafran War. Between these two dates, a nation was born and a nation was starved. In 30 months, more people died in the forests and villages of southeastern Nigeria than in most wars fought in the 20th century. Not primarily from bullets, but from hunger. Children with swollen bellies and thinning hair became the defining image of a war most of the world barely understood. It had a name that briefly meant genocide to some, secession to others, and to the young Republic of Nigeria, it was simply a rebellion that had to be crushed. That name was Biafra. This is the story of how a colonial invention called Nigeria fractured along lines drawn a century before the first shot was fired. How a massacre triggered a secession. How a secession triggered a war. And how a war triggered one of the first true humanitarian crises broadcast to a global television audience. It is a story with no clean heroes. It is a story that Nigeria, even today, has never fully finished telling itself. Chapter 1. A country that was never meant to be one to understand Biafra. You first have to understand that Nigeria was never really designed. It was assembled. In 1914, the British colonial administrator Frederick Lugard merged two separate protectorates, the Northern and Southern protectorates, into a single colony for the sake of administrative convenience and to subsidize the poorer North with the richer South's revenues. He called it the amalgamation. It joined together under one flag hundreds of distinct nations and language groups that had never been governed as one. The largely Muslim, feudal Hausa Fulani Emirates of the north, the Yoruba kingdoms of the southwest, with their own ancient city-states, and the Igbo-speaking peoples of the southeast, historically organized not around centralized kings, but around autonomous village republics and democratic town councils. These were not just different ethnicities. They were different political philosophies wearing the same colonial passport. The North was hierarchical, and British indirect rule worked through the existing emirs, leaving the region's social structure largely untouched, and its access to Western education deliberately limited, partly at the request of conservative Islamic authorities, wary of Christian missionary schools. The South, especially the Igbo Southeast, embraced missionary education aggressively. By the time Nigeria approached independence in 1960, this had produced a stark and politically explosive imbalance. The North held the population majority and the land, but the South, and Igbos in particular, held a disproportionate share of the civil service, the military officer corps, the universities, and the professions. This wasn't paranoia. It was documented reality, and it bred resentment on one side and a persistent, well-founded anxiety on the other. Independence in October 1960 didn't resolve this tension. It formalized it into a fragile federal structure of three, later 4 regions, each dominated by one of the major ethnic blocs, all competing for control of a shared national treasury and increasingly newly discovered oil wealth in the Niger Delta. The first republic's politics were, from the outset,
Chapter 2: The Coup, the Counter-Coup, and the Pogrom. A group of young army majors, several of them Igbo, most prominently Major Chukwuma Kaduna Nzeogwu, launched a coordinated coup, assassinating the federal prime minister, the premier of the northern region, the premier of the western region, and a number of senior military officers, disproportionately from northern Nigeria. The coup was messy, incomplete, and its leaders failed to seize full control. But its effect on the country's power structure was total. Within days, the highest-ranking officer left standing, Major General Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi, an Igbo, assumed leadership of the country. To many in the North, the fact that an Igbo general now sat atop a coup that had killed northern leaders while sparing the coup's Igbo plotters from execution was proof of an ethnic conspiracy, whatever the plotters' actual intentions had been. It didn't matter that the coup plotters themselves came from a mix of backgrounds, or that Ironsi moved quickly to arrest them. Perception hardened into narrative. This had been an Igbo takeover. Ironsi made it worse. In May 1966, seeking to modernize the state, he issued a decree abolishing the federal structure altogether and replacing it with a unitary government, collapsing the regions into a single, centralized administration. To northern civil servants and elites who depended on regional autonomy to protect their positions from more qualified southern competition, this looked like exactly the fear made real: Igbo domination, formalized into law. Riots broke out across northern Nigeria. Igbo residents, traders, civil servants, students, families who had lived in northern cities for generations were attacked. Hundreds were killed in the May riots alone. Then, on July 29, 1966, northern officers staged a counter-coup. Aguiyi Ironsi was captured and executed. Command eventually passed to a young northern Christian officer from a minority ethnic group, Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon, a compromise figure acceptable to the coup plotters, but with no personal role in the killings. But the killing of Igbos in the north didn't stop with the counter-coup. Over the following months, and especially after a rumor-fueled panic in late September 1966, pogroms against Igbo civilians erupted across northern cities on a horrifying scale. Mobs, sometimes with the complicity or passive presence of security forces, killed Igbo men, women, and children in their homes and markets, on trains and buses, as they tried to flee south. Estimates of the dead in these massacres range widely across historical accounts, from the low tens of thousands cited by some federal-era assessments to Eastern region estimates well over 100,000. What is not disputed is the scale of displacement. Over 1 million Igbos and other Easterners fled the north and other regions, streaming back toward the eastern region in a mass exodus that overwhelmed roads, railways, and refugee capacity. For the military governor of the eastern region, a 33-year-old former Oxford-educated officer named Lieutenant Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, the pogroms were not a tragic breakdown of law and order. They were, in his reading and in the reading of an increasingly radicalized Eastern population, evidence that Igbos and other Easterners could no longer expect physical safety inside Nigeria. Ojukwu began preparing politically and militarily for the possibility that the East would have to protect itself alone